Next on the news, it's the last day of school in the Diocese of Brooklyn. It also marks the day Salve Regina Catholic Academy in East New York closes its doors for good. We'll tell you what happens to all the furniture and statues inside the school. And it's a first in America. The 10 Commandments will now be posted in all public school classrooms in Louisiana. The Vatican calls to abolish surrogacy. We'll tell you about a UN panel the Holy See hosted. Plus, a proposed amendment to enshrine the right to an abortion in the New York State Constitution is back on the November ballot. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Today was the last day of classes for schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn, and for many, it was an easy last day. Just some fun and games in the classroom. And while most kids are thrilled to be heading out for summer break, it's bittersweet for students and teachers at Salve Regina Catholic Academy in East New York. The school is closing. It marks the end of an era, but what happens to everything inside the building? Currents News' Katie Vasquez found out.
There were cheers kicking off the last day of school at Salve Regina Catholic Academy. But the joy is fleeting, as this is the final time the teachers, students, and parents will see each other.
We're going to say our goodbyes and just pray and hope that everything works out well.
I'm going to miss all my friends.
The Diocese of Brooklyn announced in March that 4 schools will close their doors at the end of the school year. Along with Salve Regina, it includes St. Matthias Catholic Academy in Ridgewood, Visitation Academy in Bay Ridge, and St. Catherine of Genoa, St. Therese of Lisieux Catholic Academy in Flatbush. Most of the students have found new schools, and some of the staff will move on to other positions.
It hit hard. Our doors are closing. There's no coming back. There's no looking back in the school, in the hallway, nothing. It hits really hard today. It's been a hard-wrenching day for all of us.
But what happens to all the items inside the school? Desks, chairs, and books will be offered to other diocesan schools. Religious statues and paintings will stay with the church affiliated with the school. Staff will have until July 15th to pack up everything else.
We have to box up all the student records, we have to box up the admin files and everything, and then all that gets sent out to archives. So we will be here for the next few weeks doing all the paperwork that has to get done for the diocese.
Holding on to all the memories of the school before the doors close permanently.
It's just very fun to our hearts. We have so many things that, we've experienced here, so many great things, so many accomplishments.
A hard place to replace. And you'll always have a special place in our heart. So
in East New York, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
Every public school classroom in the state of Louisiana will now have the 10 Commandments on display. Governor Jeff Landry signed a new law that requires a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large and easily readable font in classrooms from kindergarten all the way up to state-funded universities. Louisiana is the first state to make this a requirement. The posters will be paired with a statement that describes how the commandments were a prominent part of American public education for almost 3 centuries. Opponents say the law is unconstitutional and are vowing a court challenge. A proposed amendment to enshrine a right to abortion in the New York State Constitution is back on the November ballot. A state appellate court ruled in favor of putting it back, reversing a lower court ruling. The lower court ruled that the state did not follow proper procedure when approving the ballot language. But the appeals court found that lawmakers who challenged the procedure had done so after the statute of limitations had passed. Opponents of the ballot measure intend to appeal to New York's highest court. The Holy See hosted a panel at the United Nations this week advocating to abolish surrogacy around the world. The event highlighted the exploitation and commodification in the surrogacy industry. Panelists are calling for increased awareness and concrete steps at the UN level to end surrogacy and uphold human dignity. Earlier this year, Pope Francis called surrogacy deplorable. The Holy Father said the path to peace calls for respect for life, for every human life, starting with the life of an unborn child, which he says cannot be turned into an object of trafficking. Pope Francis worked behind closed doors this week with his Council of Cardinals. The council is also known as C9. The Pope created it at the beginning of his pontificate to help advise him on various decisions and reform the Roman Curia. This was the group's third meeting this year. One of the topics discussed was the role of women in the church. 3 women joined the meeting, including 1 sister and 2 professors. The next and final meeting of the year will be held in December. Today is World Refugee Day, and the number of people displaced worldwide is staggering. The United Nations Refugee Agency says over 117 million people were forced from their homes in 2023, and they estimate that already this year that number has likely exceeded 120 million so far. According to the UN, there's no worse place than in Sudan. Over 10 million Sudanese people have been forcibly displaced. Most of them are still trapped in the war-torn country. Sudan now has the largest internally displaced population ever reported. There's less than a month to go for pilgrims walking to Indianapolis for the first National Eucharistic Congress in 83 years. Among them is Zoe Dongas, who works in the Office of Young Adult Outreach in the Archdiocese of New York. We checked in with her once again today. She's made it to West Virginia, where she reflected on the blessings of her journey.
The biggest blessing that was also kind of the biggest kind of struggle that turned into a blessing was we had a pretty long day on Monday. We had a 15-mile, 16-mile procession in Beaver County when we were in the Diocese of Pittsburgh, and it was hot. It was the hottest we've done a procession in, and the hottest we've done with such a length of procession. But it was really beautiful to see how the community came together. How people were always offering. I got offered a chicken nugget. I got offered water bottles. I got offered all the things while we were walking. Just to see how different churches and parishes come together, how they're so excited to continue joining in the procession, and see the faith of our bishops and our priests and all our clergy, just to see, how everyone was sweating and everyone was having their own kind of mental game in it. But it was so beautiful to see like Jesus lifted high in the center of it all, and us all following him, sweaty and all. It was beautiful.
With less than a month to go before reaching Indianapolis for the National Congress, here's a progress update on the 4 routes the pilgrims are taking. Down south, the St. Juan Diego route has reached Alabama. There, the pilgrims, along with some 550 people, processed with the Blessed Sacrament through downtown Mobile. The St. Junipero Serra route out west continued a decades-long tradition in Nebraska. The Diocese of Lincoln has celebrated this field mass for over 50 years on the site of a 1720 battle where a Catholic priest and 43 others were killed. This year, it coincided with the pilgrimage. In the North Marion route, pilgrims visited with the Sisters of St. Francis of the Holy Cross in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The nuns greeted the Blessed Sacrament and the perpetual pilgrims and sang the blessing of St. Francis. And finally, in the eastern St. Elizabeth Ann Seton route, pilgrims stopped for lunch in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Bishop David Zubik gave them a blessing before they continued on their journey. All 4 routes are traveling 6,500 miles, leading to the National Congress in Indianapolis. Of course, stay with Currents News for updates about the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage and Congress. And if you want to read more about the event, just go to eucharisticrevival.org. And before we go, do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time. Finding an empty pew to sit in on Sundays is a challenge at Our Lady of Sorrows Church in Corona.
We're getting every week, right now, at this very time, between 10 to 15,000 people a week.
Jenny's always there, but not just on Sundays.
¿Quién hizo la primera confesión hoy? Who did their first confession today?
How Jenny Alonso makes up the pulse of the parish, Wednesday on Currents News.